We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amud Aleph and Meseches Beitzah. This is Beitzah Daf 7a. On the previous summit, the Gemara said that if somebody wants to buy eggs that have been laid, and instead they get eggs from inside the womb after a chicken was shechted, so the Gemara said that's a mekach tos, because only after an egg is laid is it able to hatch an actual chick. And now the Gemara brings a story in this regard. There was a person who said to Pechaya, he wanted eggs of Pechaya, which Rashi says means the Pechaya kamo de Paya, hanolad min hatarnagolas chaya, shapur b'leidasa. He wanted eggs that were laid by a live chicken. That's what he wanted to purchase. So he said, the Pechaya Laman, who has these kind of eggs, who can I purchase them from? So Yahavule Bei Deshchuta. So instead of giving him eggs that were laid by a live chicken, instead they gave him eggs from within a chicken that was shechted. So Asa Lakami de Rabbi Ami, he came before Rabbi Ami. Amar Lahu, he said to them, Mekach tos, so this is considered a Mekach tos, and the whole sale is not going to be good, exactly like we said on the previous Amud. V'hadr, the whole sale has to be retracted. And so the Gemara says, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Rashi says over here, Pshita, the Mekach tos, so it's obvious that it's a Mekach tos. Ta'behedya, Amar Le, the Pechaya, that's exactly what the guy said. He said he wanted eggs that were laid from a live chicken. So the Gemara says, not necessarily obvious. What might you have thought? That really this guy, he wants to eat the eggs. He's not intending on raising chickens. He doesn't want the chick. The only reason he said the Pechaya, he wanted eggs from a live chicken, is because those are considered fully matured. They're better eggs for eating. But either case, it would have fulfilled his basic goal. And then lamai nafkamina, what would the difference be? Lameis v'lei beini beini. You just have to give him the difference in value between the two kinds of eggs. In other words, the person basically got what he wanted. He just got a little bit of a lower level of quality, and the seller would just have to make up the difference in quality. As Rashi over here says, v'nafkamina bein man deboy luhu la'achila bein man deboy lu la'afrochim. What's the difference between one who wants for eating and one who wants for afrochim? Lameis v'lei de beini beini. The difference is to give him the amount in between. Do you have to just give him maybe the amount of value that he lost? If the person wanted just to eat the eggs, the whole sale wouldn't be batel. He's still getting eggs that he can eat. He got worse eggs. He could have got nicer eggs. You'll just give him the difference in between. So Kamash Malon, so it comes to teach us. Rashi over here says Kamash Malon Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami comes to teach us the stam man de boy bei de pachia, that when a person when he requests that he wants eggs from a live chicken, lefrochim boilu, he really wants them for the chicks. V'einelu shavin lo klum. What he's gotten now, which is just eggs that are for eating, not having live chicks, that's not worth anything to him. And Rabbi Ami is teaching us that is a mekach tos, and it's totally batel. The Gemara continues with another story along the same lines. There was a person who said that he was looking to purchase eggs that were fertilized by a male. Who has those? Bei de dichr laman. Who has eggs again that are fertilized? So he wanted the chicks. So you have ule bei de sifna me'ara. So they gave him eggs that were unfertilized. The Gemara uses the expression sifna me'ara, gets warmed up, so to speak, from the earth. It means to say unfertilized eggs. So Asa Lakame de Rabbi Ami, they came before Rabbi Ami, said, I got the wrong kind of eggs. I wanted fertilized eggs. They gave me unfertilized eggs. So Amar Lu, so he said to them, Mekach tosu, that's a Mekach tos. V'hadar, the whole sale is a mistake, and the whole thing has to be retracted. In other words, the sale is batel. So the Gemara says again, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Of course the sale is batel. He wanted fertilized eggs. He got unfertilized eggs. So the Gemara says the same thing as before. What might you have thought? Really, he just wants to eat the eggs. When he said he wanted to be fertilized by a male, those are a little fatter, those are a little bit more higher quality. So therefore, again, what would the difference be? Again, you'll just give him the difference in value. So you gave him eggs that were of lower quality, so the seller just has to make up the missing value. Kamash Malon, again, it comes to teach us that this person wants the chicks. He wants fertilized eggs because he doesn't want to eat the eggs. He wants to raise chickens, and therefore he got nothing, and the mekach is a mekach tos, and it is batel. And the Gemara continues, Viboy is saying, if you want, I could say another answer. What did Rav mean when he said im yitziyasa nigmara? When the egg comes out, that's when it is completed. My im yitziyasa nigmara, what did Rav mean by that comment, im yitziyasa nigmara? He meant as follows, im yitziyas ruba nigmara, when the majority of the egg comes out, it's considered completed. Rashi over here explains, im yitziyas ruba nigmara, linyan yontiv itmar. We're going back and we're saying, really, he was talking about yontiv, meaning an egg that was nolad on yontiv. Dim The case is as follows. Let's say the majority of the egg came out in Erev Yontif, but then it went back inside the animal and went back inside the womb. Then it came out at night again fully. Muteris, that's going to be mutter. That's the same thing like it was born yesterday, meaning it was born before Yontif because the majority came out before Yontif. That's actually what Rav meant. Again, Mayim Yitzias Nigmara, Yitzias Ruba Nigmara, Uchid Reb Yochanan. It means the majority came out. That's considered like it's born. It follows the same thing that Reb Yochanan said. The Amar Reb Yochanan, because Reb Yochanan said, Beitzah Sheyatza Ruba Me Erev Yomtiv. You have a situation of an egg, the majority comes out from Erev Yontiv, the Chazra goes back in, Muteres La'achla B'Yontiv. You're allowed to eat it on Yontiv. Some have a different version of this answer. Mayim Yitziasa Nigmara. What does it mean, Im Yitziasa Nigmara? What did Rav mean? Im Yitzias Kula Nigmara. On the contrary, the entire thing has to come out for it to be Nigmara. Im Yitzias Kula in Avol Rubalo, meaning the whole thing has to come out. Majority doesn't count as if it was already Nolad. Ulafuka mid Rabbi Yochanan. According to this version, Rav is actually to exclude Rabbi Yochanan. He's going against Rabbi Yochanan's halacha. The Gemara continues, Gufa, returning to the Gemara we mentioned previously. Hashochet is Hatarnagolis. Let's say somebody shechts a chicken, Umatzaba Beitzim Gemuros, and he finds within the chicken whole eggs. Mutaros la'achlan b'chalav. It's mutter to eat that with milk. The idea being that again, eggs are not considered meat, and they can be eaten together with milk. Rabbi Yaakov says, Im hayu mu'uros begidin. If the sinews are still attached to the eggs, so then asuros. Then it's a problem. Again, then it's going to be considered like meat. And the Gemara continues, Man tana laha de tanu rabbanon. Who is the author of the following brisa? The brisa says, Ha'ochel min nivlas oftar. Let's say somebody eats from the carcass of a kosher bird. Rashi over here says, Nivlas oftar, when you have a kosher bird that dies without shchita, Metama ha'ochel l'tami begadim shulavish b'shas bliyasa. The clothing that the person is wearing when he's swallowing the nevela of the oftar actually becomes tummy. The person eating it becomes tummy, and the clothing also becomes tummy. Ve'ein lo tumas mago masa. There's no tum of touching it or carrying it. Meseches nida yalfin and lol. This is learned out of Meseches nida. Ve'ochel echad min hadvarim halalu mimenu. Now let's say you eat from the nivlas oftar the following parts of the body. So if you eat min hashalal shel beitzim, let's say you eat from the eggs that are again attached by the sinews. That's basically the case that we just had. Min ha'atzamos, you eat from the bones of the animals. Umin hagidin, or from the sinews. Umin habasar shenislash min hachai, or let's say you eat from the meat that was taken off while the animal was alive. Rashi over here says lav nevela. That's not considered nevela because it was detached while the animal was alive. So in all of those cases, tahor. In all of these cases, you're considered tahor. Rashi also over here explains first min hashlal shel beitzim kshen kavushin ushalulin ukavuin b'shedra kolomar ochalosam beitzim ba'odan mu'urin begidin. Again, they're still attached with the sinews, or min hagidin, or eat from the sinews themselves. V'kasavar ein begidin b'no sein tam. This particular brisa holds that the sinews are not no sein tam. They don't have any taste, so those are not a problem either. In none of those cases, you're going to be tamei. That's the first section of the brisa. But then the brisa continues in the following case. Again, all those cases are tahor. But min ha'eshkol shel beitzim. Let's say you have from the eggs from the ovaries, which are not similar to normal eggs. Min ha'korkavan, you have from the craw. Uvnei me'ayin, you have from the intestines. O shehimches ha'chelev, or let's say you melt down the fat, the gamo, and he swallows that. Tamei, in all of those cases, the person is going to be tamei. Rashi over here says, Mina eshkol mibsar hashedra, sha'abeitzim adukim sham. Again, we translate as ovaries. Rashi says from the flesh of the area of the spine where the eggs are. Shehimches ha'chelev, you melt down the fat. Hitiches hashumin v'gamo tamei. Melts down the fat, and then he swallows it, is going to be tamei. Uvaorva rote parchinan v'achila ksiva bei. But the Gemara is going to ask. The Gemara asks in Chulin. The Gemara asks, doesn't it say achil? You have to eat. V'yamar Rabbi Shimon Lakish hanefesh l'rabos hashosa. And Rabbi Shimon Lakish over there says that it says hanefesh means even if you drink. It says over here also v'nefesh, so drinking would count as well. In any case, so the brisa has this list, and included in this list over here, it said that if you have again from the eggs which are attached by the sinews, the person is tahor. So the Gemara says, Man tana min hashlal shel beitzim tar. Who's the author over here in the brisa that says that if you have the eggs that are still attached by the sinews, you're tar? So Amar Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef says, the lo Rabbi Yaakov. It seems not like Rabbi Yaakov. The ik Rabbi Yaakov, because if it followed Rabbi Yaakov, Amar, he said, hayu ma'oros begidin asuros. What did he say? He said that if you have eggs that are still attached by the sinews, it's usur, meaning it's usur to have it together with chalav. You can't have it with milk, because he says that it's considered like the meat of the animal. If it's considered like the meat of the animal, so it should also make the person tamei. It should be considered nivlas oftar, and it should make the person tamei. And so the Gemara says, Amar le Abaye. Abaye said back to him, Abaye said back to Rav Yosef, Mimai, how do you know to make a comparison? Til Madkan lo kamer Rabbi Yaakov hasam el linyan isura. Maybe Rabbi Yaakov only made his statement when it comes to prohibitions, in terms of considering it like the meat of the animal. It's prohibited to have it with milk. That's what he was talking about. Avol inyan tumah, but who says he'd go so far as to say that in terms of tumah, it would also be tumah? And the Gemara says, V'chiteim, and if you're going to say linyan tumah, not nami, when it comes to tumah as well, nigzor, let's at least make a gezerah, make a decree that if it's considered like meat when it comes to the halachas of eating it with milk, you should also consider it like the meat of the animal. We should make a decree that it should be considered like the meat of the animal in terms of tumah. No, afushe tumahu, that's already increasing tumah. We don't want to increase scenarios of tumah that are not really tumah. Ve'afushe tumah midrabanan lo mafshinan. On a drabanan level, we don't like to increase the scenarios in which a person can be tumah. Vika diamri, there are those who have a different version of this discussion. They say as follows: Man tana minho eshkol shel beitzim tame. We're not going on the case of shalal shel beitzim, which is eggs that are attached to the sinews. We're going on the case of the ovaries. Who says that when you have eggs in the ovaries, tame? So who's the one that says in that case it is considered tameh? Amar Rav Yosef, Rabbi Yaakovi. And in this version, Rav Yosef says that is Rabbi Yaakov. It's the same case. Because didn't Rabbi Yaakov say that if it's attached by the sinews, it's usher? So that's the same case as the ovaries. So the Gemara says, no, it's not the same case. Amar le Abaye, Abaye said back to him, Abaye says back to Rav Yosef, how do you know that eshkol means that it's hanging from the ovaries? That would be the same as Rabbi Yaakov. Dilma eshkol gufe. Maybe what we're talking about is the ovaries themselves. We're talking about the eggs of the ovaries themselves. That's already going to be a different case altogether. And the Gemara says, V'chitema eshkol gufei ma'ila memra. And maybe you'll say, well, if it's from the ovaries, what do you even need to say that for? It's obvious that that's going to be a situation of the nevela that's going to be considered tameh. So the Gemara says, no, midi dehavi akurkov uvnei me'ayin. We do need to include it, just like we needed to include the case of the craw and the case of the intestines. Di'af agav de basar ninu, because even though those are also clearly meat of the animal, kevan de'ika inchi delo achli, since there are people that don't eat that, so itzrich lashmin, and we needed to teach you this. It was still a little bit of a chiddush that it's considered to be tameh. So achanami here also, kevan de'ika inchi delo achli, since there are people that don't eat this, so itzrich lashmin, and we need to teach you that nonetheless, if you eat it, you are tameh. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbon, and the rabbis taught, kol shetashmisha bayom, any creature who has relations during the daytime hours, nolad bayom. So then the animal is going to be born during the daytime hours. Kol shetashmisha balayla, any creature where the relations take place at night, so nolad balayla, the animal will be born at night. Kol shetashmisha bein bayom uvein balayla, anybody where the relations is during the day or during the night, nolad bein bayom uvein balayla, going to be born either during the day or can be born during the night. And the Gemara explains, Kol shetashmisha bayom nolad bayom. Any animal or any creature that has relations during the day, the offspring will be born during the day. Zutar nagolas. This refers to a chicken. Kol shetashmisha balayla, nolad balayla. Anything that takes place at night is born at night. Zuatal, if that refers to a bat. Kol shetashmisha bein bayom uvein balayla, if it's day or night. So adam v'chol damile, that's going to be man, and any creature that's similar to man, that's going to be day or night. Amar Mar, the master said, Kol shetashmisha b'yom nolad b'yom. Again, if the relations take place during the day, the animal will be born during the day. Zutar nagolas, this refers to a chicken. Lamai nafkamina. The Gemara says, what practical difference does this make? L'chad Rav Mori breder Rav Kahana. It makes a practical difference for that which Rav Mori, the son of Rav Kahana, said. Damar Rav Mori breder Rav Kahana, because Rav Mori breder Rav Kahana said, Badak b'kina shel tar nagol in me'erev yomtiv. Let's say you checked the area where the chicken was. You checked it on erev yomtiv to see whether there was an egg. V'lo matzah b'beitza. The person didn't find any egg. Then the next day the person got up and he finds that there's an egg over there. So then now it's a question was it born on Yontif? Is this a situation of Beitzah Shenolda b'Yontif? So mutaris, the halacha is it's mutter. We do not assume that an egg is going to be laid during the night, and therefore you can assume that it was actually laid before Yontif and it's mutter. So the Gemara says, 1 second, v'alo badak, but in this case he inspected it. He checked the whole area where the chicken was. So of course it must have been laid overnight if he didn't find anything. Gemara says not necessarily. Amor lo badak yafa yafa. Maybe the person didn't check so well. Va'afilu badak yafa, and even if the person did check very well, Amor yotzta ruba v'chazra havoy. Maybe what happened was that it came out majority of the way before Yontif, and then it went back into the womb, and then it came out on Yontif, which counts as having before Yontif. Reb Yochanan, like Reb Yochanan said that in such a case, if the majority came out beforehand, it's considered like it was laid before Yontif. But the Gemara still says, Ini, is this halacha really true? V'amar Rabbi Yossi ben Shol amar Rav, or Rabbi Yossi ben Shol said in the name of Rav, Badak b'kona shel tarnagolas me'erev Yontav. Again, you check the whole area of where the chicken is on erev Yontav. V'lo matzah b'beitzah, you don't find an egg. U'lamachar hishkim v'matzah b'beitzah, and then the next day the person wakes up and he finds an egg. Asur, he said, on the contrary, it's actually asur, it's actually prohibited. So that's a contradiction to that which we just said. So the Gemara says, no, hasam over there, but the safna me'ara. There we're talking about a situation where it's an unfertilized egg. You can assume that if it's an unfertilized egg, you can assume that it did happen overnight, it can happen at night, but if it's a fertilized egg, it would certainly be laid during the day. But the Gemara says, 1 second, if so, the Rav Mari nami, ema me'ara safna. So in the case of Rav Mari as well, how do you know whether the egg is fertilized or unfertilized? Maybe what we're looking at over here is an unfertilized egg, and therefore maybe it was laid on Yontif. So the Gemara says, no, in that case, you know for sure it was fertilized. You know for sure because there was a male that was present. Since there was a male that was present, therefore it's obvious that it was fertilized. Gemara says, why is that obvious? Even when there's a male present, maybe it's an unfertilized egg. How do you know that this is a fertilized egg? Just because there's a male that's around the chicken coop. So the Gemara says, Amar Ravina says, Gemiri, it is learned, it is understood. Anytime there's a male that's present, that's in the area, lo safna me'ara, it's not going to come from the earth, it's not going to be unfertilized, so to speak, and therefore you know 100% it came from the male. It has to be during the day, it didn't happen at night. Gemara says, Viad kam, well, how far away does the male have to be that we can say with certainty that it's a fertilized egg? Amar Rav Gamda Mishmei de Rav. Rav Gamda says in the name of Rav, Kol Hecha, any situation, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Zayin Amud Beis.